All right. Looks like we already have 8 people ready to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us here for this special event of all kinds of amazing authors who are here to help support a wonderful cause. We have with us right now on the stream, we have myself, Ramon Mejia, LitRPG Podcast, and Ari Mejia. We also have with us Dakota Grout. Say hello, Dakota.
Hey, everyone. How's it going?
Dakota is the author of The Ritualist. He is also the author of the Divine Dungeon series, 2 amazing LitRPG series. And we also have with us Michael Chatfield, who is the author of many, many, many great things, including the Amarillo series, which is the LitRPG series. Say hey, Mike.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Yeah, and of course, we're all here to support a wonderful cause in which I will pull up their particular website for Authors for St. Jude, where they're doing Dakota's organized this. It's going to be a silent auction, bidding on a bunch of great, amazing prizes, including like huge, like signed physical copies of a bunch of titles, including LitRPG, game lit, science fiction, fantasy. We have individual sets from different authors, all starting at different bids. And all the bidding is starting today, I believe. Is that correct, Dakota?
Yes, it is. So you kind of grabbed my whole intro there. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. But yeah, it's an awesome thing. And like you were saying, we do have all sorts of different packages you can bid on. So we are starting every bid at $5 a book, basically, is how that breaks down. So we have all these packages of books. So it looks like there's a high price tag, but you're getting it for... You can start the bids for less than the wholesale price of these books. So hopefully, this is for charity, so hopefully people are like, yeah, I want those books really bad. So yeah, it's Authors for St. Jude, so there is a lot of really super awesome authors that donated. We have, a little over a dozen, I think, that all... everyone wanted to participate, not everyone had physical copies of their books. So... thank you to everyone who did participate, and thank you to everyone who wanted to participate, because that's just awesome, and it's awesome of you to do that. Hey, James.
Hey, perfect. And joining us is James Hunter, whose name I couldn't remember until somebody reminded me.
Terrible.
He is we can't hear him.
You need to turn that way up.
We can't hear him in his purple room of writing desire, but we can see him. I will share at least his page. You can see some of his stuff here while we'll be getting hooked up to some mics here at least. Let's see. There we go. And let me see if that's on me first. And there we go. Sorry, I'll kind of ship it around. But there's Jace Hunter as the Viridian Gate series. He, of course, has the War God Mantle as his 2 LitRPGs, but also has a number of other urban fantasy novels. And some other actually sci-fi novels under a different pen name. But welcome to the particular stream, James. So thanks a lot. And there's James Hunter whispering like it's a library. Again, I think he's begging your forgiveness, but he also wants you to purchase all of his books, complete sets. He says, I have children to feed. They're going to be going to college at some point. I have to save up for them now. Please purchase. So there's James. But we can all chat amongst ourselves as the thing goes on. We were just talking to Michael Chatfield. He's actually doing a huge tour of the world, which I am particularly envious about. Michael, why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how it's going for you?
So I decided that I wanted to play video games and write a little bit around the world. So kind of got on a plane and been running about kind of like a headless chicken so far. Mostly learning how Google Translate works, because learning other languages is not my forte, and I think if I was to probably learn another language, it would start showing up in books, which would probably be not so good. But yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun just to be seeing I've been playing video games in every single country, and sometimes it's I play PC games, but I got into gamer cafes and that good stuff, which has been an eye-opening experience, and especially because you forget what time is, and so when it's 7 o'clock in the morning and then you're leaving, you're like, oh, what have I done with my life? And that was really good fun. But yeah, no, it's been a great bit of fun. It's led to a lot of inspiration for new books, so that should be a lot of fun coming up. And well, I went to a place that James will know very well, Thailand, there, because he lived in Thailand for quite a few years, actually.
Okay, I'm glad you explained that because that has some other connotations. I'm like, oh, okay.
Can I defend myself? Is it working?
Teeny bit better, but
He's like,
no.
murmur,
All
murmur,
we're
murmur.
hearing
Thailand was
is
great.
I lived in Thailand and I had
Yeah.
lots of fun.
Yeah,
That's what we're getting currently.
that's what I got too. And then he says in chat, "You are all the worst. We all are. If we weren't, we probably
Can
wouldn't
you-
be your friends."
Hey, Ramon, can you hop into your control center and see if you can max his volume out on there?
Oh, sure. Let me see if I can do that for him. James Hunter, up all the way.
Is this one any better? Any better?
Way
a little
better.
bit. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm gonna like
Wait.
stick this thing in my face here,
Nice.
and
Can
I'm
hear
just
you.
gonna goober it.
Oh, yeah, that's good. There you go. Now we got you.
Okay.
Good call,
yes,
Dakota.
yes, I lived in Thailand as an international aid worker. Was not there like party with my white children, so just setting the record straight. And nothing weird or illicit was going on. I swear, we were working there, doing good things, helping people. So.
We all know that you're the best of us.
Also, I have real quick because Ramon said this, and I have to set the record straight. Not because I don't like Aaron's books. So I don't have a pen name. So the books that everyone thinks are a pen name, they're not. That's a real person that we publish who is named Aaron. Like the guy who co-authored the War God books with me, that's the same guy who wrote that sci-fi series. But it's not me. I just want to go on the record because everyone's like, "So, dude, you're like getting into sci-fi with a pen name," and I'm like, "Nope, I'm not 100% not doing that. Just still writing all the things that I've always been writing." So, there it is on the level.
Very nice.
Well, thank you for clearing that up. We appreciate it. We have our first question from chat from Danielle. She says, "You shave Chatfield." She's noticing that you're missing your trademark beard, and I want to kind of read his attention like that. He used to have like this full, thick, manly beard, and for some reason, he's decided to betray Beard Kai. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Michael?
I was in Japan, and when you're eating a lot of soup-based items, it is not the best to have a beard. It's great if you want later snacks. But not essential to day-to-day function or like sense of smell, because it sometimes gets in the old mustache there. But yeah, no, like now seeing it, Dakota's now like growing back his beard, and James has got his beard going in full force. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to like not shave for the entire time leading up to Dragon Con now.
Well, I mean, it takes you like 2 weeks, so.
And just for the record, I'm glad that it was Danielle who brought it up, or Daniel, because Danielle. It's the first thing I noticed. Because when I was at Dragon Con with Michael, I was like, oh man, he's so dreamy with his. He's so dreamy with his lush Canadian beard, and then I was like, who is this boy child on the screen in front of me? Surely this is not the same guy that I remember, the Dreamboat from Dragon Con. That is facial hair. What's going on? So I'm glad I'm not the first one to say it. But I was thinking it. That was the first thing. I was like, different. He's changed so much.
Well, Ramon was like, oh, yeah, he's like lost 10 on the manliness column. Then Dakota comes right in afterwards, and he's like, yeah, his like, what's it? Constitution is like just plummeted. I'm like, oh,
armor class. Yep, you dropped some armor class there.
Hey, there was a bus that came through here, and I was underneath the entire thing.
Yeah, but the beard, for real though, like the beard absorbs like mace blows and arrows, like it stops them dead in the track. It's all kinds of extra armor points for this thing, man. It's incredible.
Yeah, even chat's like in the case now. I think Hasper says at Boychild is Mike's new Twitter handle, at Boychild.
At Boychild.
At Boychild, I see it. that's your new at sign, apparently, Mike. All right.
Oh, God.
So, also, speaking of Danielle, because she was the one that brought this up, I just wanted to give a big shout out to Danielle for putting together the auction site. So she found all the details on that. She is the one that did all the placement, all the ad stuff like photographs and setting up the collages, and she put a lot of work into it, and it looks amazing. So thank you so very much.
This is your Danielle, right? Your wife?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh well, thank you, Danielle.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel, for again doing all the work for Dakota once again.
Yeah.
Proving that she's the better Kraut once again. Yes,
Wait, gotta say it. Danielle is like, when I've had a conversation with Dakota, nearly every single time I hear in the background, "Hey Jeffield, how's it going?" I'm like, "Hey Danielle, how's it going?" And I'm like, "Who's this Dakota guy? Like, why am I talking to him? Like, can I just go right to Danielle?"
It's true.
Yeah.
It would be faster in a lot of instances. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, she's pretty awesome. So yeah, she's definitely the sweet Kraut to my sauerkraut. So.
And in chat, she says, "Thank you guys, heart, heart, heart." She's super sweet. I met her at Dragon Con. I was like, "Oh yeah, she's way too good for Dakota. Like she's."
Oh, very much.
He
so.
stepped up. He definitely scored there. That's for sure.
I married up. I was trying to be a trophy husband, but it didn't work out.
Yeah, that was always my plan too. My wife, before we got into the writing business, she was before we went to Thailand, she worked at a pharmaceutical company. I was like, man, I am just like, she's my sugar mama, and I'm just gonna like stay at home and play my video games. I'm done with the Marine Corps, and it didn't wash out that way. But man, a guy can dream.
Right.
Always
Same
can
thing
dream.
happened to me. Same thing happened to me. Dr. Kraut upstairs. She married. Specialist Kraut, in the Army. And so when I got out, I started writing, same deal. And now we're hopefully both going to be able to stay out. Because I'm a full-time author now. And the hope is that within the next few months, we can all be at home. But we'll see what happens, because she does have a very good job. So it's going to take some convincing. We'll see what I can do, though.
No, I agree on the same thing. Like I also married up, so I think all 3 of the 4 of us really did. My wife's a professor. She teaches at several colleges, and I used to be like a janitor and like a substitute teacher, and before becoming a writer. I'm like, oh yeah, she definitely, I scored there as well. And then there's Mike.
Just left Thailand, yeah.
And then there's Mike, all alone, his beardless face not attracting the high quality women that the other guys are definitely pulling in.
He was in Japan. I'm just gonna say this. Like, he was just in Japan, and they're not all big on the hairy. So
I'm kind of curious. Like in Japan, like what's your line in Japan to like get the ladies interested in you, man?
What are we? Let me guess. Is it arigato?
Thank you. That's what you're going for?
That
was a very smoldery arigato. I like that.
It's easier with me.
It's also goodbye. So I don't know. Did you not talk to him the first bit? It was just like, arigato. But I've got a lot to learn. It seems marrying up is definitely one, and never shave. Never shave.
Apparently, definitely not before coming onto a stream. Apparently.
I was actually thinking of that yesterday, because I had something. All right, okay. I'm not gonna say I had a full beard, but I had something, and then I was like, drunkenly at 2 a.m. Oh, I'm gonna shave this off. I'm gonna look all professional. And I woke up the next morning. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, you're fine. But yeah. Sorry. So, real quick, back on topic for the St. Jude thing. So just so everyone knows, the packages that you can bid on are, it has all the details on them right there. All proceeds from this are going directly to St. Jude's Children's Hospital, and it is going to be for research for childhood diseases and such. And it's just a really, really super good cause. St. Jude's does not, as far as I know, they do not charge parents for the care of their kids, so the kids get the care that they need. So this will help that. So it's a really super good cause. So feel free to bid on the packages, or just go. There's a donate now button, and you can donate directly to them. So and this does go for a week. So the stream is tonight, but the auction goes all week. So feel free to really pump those numbers up.
There we go. Charity stuff checked. Now.
Yeah.
Now back to that beard conversation.
Yeah.
Let's go to the book conversation, all right?
Oh yeah. Hey guys, what do you guys have? What do you guys have coming up here? So I know Chatfield has like 6, 7 books on you're sitting on, and
Do you really,
James probably has
Chatfield,
1 or 2.
Mister? Oh, I'm taking my time with this now. I have this huge 200,000 page novel. It's not a book a month anymore. So what are you working on, man?
I have an old sci-fi series. Like before I came into LitRPG, I was writing the sci-fi series, and then like to take a bit of a break from it, I started writing LitRPG because like instead of actually playing video games, I started writing about them. It was very strange. So now I'm going back to that sci-fi series, and that should be coming out in August until the end of the year. I'm hoping for like 5 books or so and doing that.
Dang, dude.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. um, I started writing a new lit RPG series, and I've started putting it up on Patreon and Raw Road. And the thing is that I started writing it, and then I was writing it. It was way too fast. Like everything was progressing really, really, really fast. Everyone was getting OP as hell, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And so I changed the entire storyline. And
10 Realms? Sorry to interrupt. Is that 10 Realms?
yeah.
Okay, because I'm following that pretty closely, and I really like it. So sorry, go ahead.
So that's going to be like a big book, the way it's looking, simply because it is. I don't want to say more than that.
It is. That works.
Yeah. Like it sounds like when I talked to Luke Chimilenko of the Ascend Online series, he was just like, yeah, like I was writing and I just couldn't stop writing, and it's kind of like that, and it's really fun because it goes into a lot of the characteristics and stuff I've wanted to go into before, like base building is about the biggest hint I'm going to give. But yeah, no, that's how books are going right now. How about you guys? What are you guys up to?
Let's go with James Hunter. What are you up to, James Hunter?
Oh man, I don't even know where to start. I got a lot of books that I'm working on concurrently, and a lot that are slated to be done this year. So War God 2, War God's Mantle 2 is done. That one's at the editor. It's going to come out in a couple of weeks. So I'm excited about that, and working on an outline for War God 3. And I'm also, right now, I'm working on Viridian Gate Online 6. So that's my next solo project that I'm working on. And then I have at some point, I'm going to ask Dakota to read it. It's a radically strange sort of dungeon novel.
All right.
Really weird, but it's LitRPG dungeon. And then I'm also working on a LitRPG space opera, which I think will be good. And then I have 2 more urban fantasy titles to finish this year in this series, the Yancey Lazarus series. There's a little plug there. So I got 2 more books to finish in that one. And then I'm trying to write a high fantasy book. I got a meeting with the big editor over at one of the traditional publishing houses, and he's interested in picking up a new high fantasy series, not LitRPG, just a straight high fantasy that I'm also going to try to do this year. So that's what I'm going to try to do this year, is write all the words and all the books. So that's my plan.
That sounds familiar. I like that plan. That's my plan, basically. I like that. But yeah, dungeon novel, man. I'm watching the chat at the same time, and as soon as you mention it, Falcon's like, "Excuse me?"
Yeah. Falcon popped in. You're like, "Oh, dungeon novel."
Yes.
So, yeah, man. I'm excited to read that because I love that sort of thing. Like everyone's like, "Oh, don't you hate the competition?" I'm like, "Oh, I love books, so it's glorious." And when you say it's a weird book, that's right up my alley. Because
I was like, "Ooh, weird. That's like me."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing. Like, it's odd is something not cookie cutter. Like this is great. Yeah, got to be odd to be number 1, right? Like that's
not all, but I've read all. I've read all your guys' books. I've read Falcon's books, and I really like the dungeon stuff. And for a long time, I thought I don't think I really enjoyed them, but I thought I don't think that I can write this because they're too base building, and I was like, I'm not sure how to do that well and still tell an interesting story. You guys do it really well. And so for a long time I was like, I feel like I don't know how to do this and have it still be inside the wheelhouse of things that I can do. But it was always kind of stewing in the back of my brain. It's like, this is a thing that I do want to do at some point when I figure out a story that would work with it. And I finally figured something out, and I was like, all right, this is going to be different, but it will sort of scratch that itch to write this kind of book, while also fitting inside of all of the things that I actually know how to do well as a storyteller. So, I mean, I'm really excited. I have not been this excited about a series in a long time, so I'm pretty pumped. Just starting on it, but it'll probably be done in about a month and a half or so.
Sure.
And I'm really excited to get it out there and see what people think. So, or if they hate it and they're like, "Boo, James Hunter, don't ever write this type of book again," and then I'll just walk away in shame and I'll do something else. It's
highly
okay.
doubt it. I highly doubt you.
I mean, it happens.
Lots of folks in the chat room saying hello. We got Jacob Taylor, Dave Wilmarth, Emily Rose saying hello. Falcon Logue says everybody belongs in a dungeon. So that's his contribution to that conversation. Matt Dinman says he doesn't know how you guys write more than one thing at a time. I don't either, honestly. I'm like, you guys can write multiple things at one time. It's taking me like 6 months to write this like next book. There's definitely different skill levels here.
It's more just how much time you can get and how much you can fit in that amount of time. So you are doing various things, and all I do is write heavily, and so it's like I'm not doing podcasts, I'm not doing all this other stuff.
You review like 1 million books a week. Like, you read more books in a week than I feel like I read in a year. Like, that's an impressive skill set too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a major like contribution for the community. So I mean, we're thankful and it's impressive.
Thank you very much. I wish that it would pay the bills. It kind of pays for itself, but it definitely does. It's something that I love doing, so that's why I do that. But I definitely always envy your guys' ability to like write more than 3 novels a year.
If it helps at all, one of the things that really helped me. I didn't used to be an outliner, and now I'm like a super uber outliner. Like when I start a story, there's already like 15,000 words of outline done. Like every chapter and every scene has been outlined. So like when it's time for me to write, it's like, okay, what am I writing today? It's like, oh, this exact scene that I already have. And then the developmental edits are like so much less because the whole story has already been told. I already have all the plot twists and I know all the character arcs and stuff. So then I just like power through it. And then when I get tired of one book, I just switch over and I do the next one. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm on to this scene in this book. And then I do that. So that's kind of...
Doesn't that ruin like the discovery part of writing? Like when you're like, what's coming in so much detail, isn't it like ruin like, the surprise of like that creativity?
For me, no. Like whenever I talk to people and they're like, oh, like they talk about a movie that I haven't seen, they're like, I have to give you spoilers, and I'm like, I love the spoilers. Like I don't like the discovery is not the exciting part. Like the exciting part for me is like seeing how a book hangs together. Like seeing like, oh man, they set up the end right here in chapter 4, and oh, here's the special skill that they're going to pull out in chapter 6, and they're going to use it to defeat the big bad in chapter 28. Like I love looking at a book as a whole or a movie as a whole and like figuring out all of the things that they do and how it works as a whole. So for me, that's the exciting part, not the discovery.
Okay. Gotcha. That makes sense to me, I guess. Yeah. And Dave Wilmarth in chat room is asking James Hunter specifically, are you wearing pants?
Because you are.
Unfortunately, yes, because I just had date night with my wife, which is like my once a week excursion out into the real world. So I rushed home and I still had pants on. But this is atypical.
Good for you.
As it should be for a full-time author, right?
I don't know if I feel more comfortable with that knowledge or less comfortable with that knowledge, but
much more comfortable.
I think Matt.
This is why Dakota's sitting on the floor. He's like, oh, yep.
I'm sitting here, I got my arms on my couch. Good stuff.
You're making me envision weird things, Chatfield. There's a lot of weirdness going on, and I'm not comfortable with it.
Just sitting here wearing a kilt. It's all good. Don't worry about it.
Just accept it.
Win some, lose some. Yep. Actually, that made me think. Like you were talking about odd stuff and how like it can work really well. I don't know if you guys read the book Dominion of Blades recently. So second book in that came out. It was really good. They did some tower defense, and I had thought about writing tower defense, but it was a really kind of a thing because it's hard to do that kind of hard to conceptualize that on paper and get what you're trying to say across really well. But I think that that did it really well. So if you're looking for something like that, and I was gonna say that before I even saw that Matt or that Dinman was on here. So I think it's Matt.
Yeah, no, I'm always excited when somebody tries to do something new and they pull some other gaming kind of thing, just like regular fantasy MMO stuff. Not that I'm tired of it, but it's always nice to see like other concepts come in and be pulled to another, because there's so many other games. There's so many RPG mechanics systems in the world. I'm always like surprised that everyone just kind of pulls from the same idea pool. Like,
right.
Like I think one of the best things, like as James said, with like where you find something and then you go through at the end of it, it's like when you see the systems that people can come up with, like Dakota's like Divine Dungeon series, which had like basically like Chinese cultivation system, and then also like fantasy, Western fantasy adventure style, and it was like the mashing of those two together, and I was just like.
I'm glad I did that.
When you see like the different systems that can be made up, because like the game systems, like we have sorry, excuse me, like with tower defense, with VR MMO RPG, with like when your body's been destroyed and you're uploaded into the system, like with a Viridian Gate. Oh, it's just like those abilities to not only change how the mechanics work, but the situations. Because sometimes you'll just get like the first like 5 pages in, and you'll be like, "All right, this is going to be interesting for like different factors. Like it might be the character you really like. You might be like, this system could be amazing. Like the ideas and the expansion of it. Because like who doesn't go into a video game and says, I'm going to be God by the end of this. Like, you're going to be running around and you could be like slapping people with a pinky finger and you're like, goodbye. And it's just boom. And it's like, it is just like the fun and conceptual, like where can you go and the struggle to get there. And then it's also kind of interesting how like, I always found it interesting, at least when you like get to the end of a game in say like Skyrim or Fallout, or like a MMORPG like WoW and such. When you get to the end of it, like there's still small things to do, but usually once you've done it, unless you're going for 100% completionist, then you're just like, okay, I'm good. Just
someone
like
else's novel, but okay.
yeah, but like you're just good with like seeing how you could be in that world, because you've got like all the fire spells of the world, and you're just running around just being like, fireball, 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 fireball. And it's just like, hey, you like in the beginning of the game, you guys have got me so good, and then now you're just like teabag. And then just good fun like that. But I find that's really cool to like play around with and see.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, all kinds of great stuff we can pull from for our stories and individual stuff. See a couple of questions from the chat room. Let's see. Falcon says, it's true, Ramon is a Gutland here in a good way. Attack of the Ramones. And Dimin says he's convinced there are 4 Ramones. Let's see. And Dave Wilmar says, it looks like Chatfield's in some executive lounge somewhere. He's waiting for the scantily clad waitresses
to come around and card him and see if he should be there, because he looks too young.
Boy child. Hashtag boy child.
Hashtag boy child. All right.
No, I'm in an office right now. I think I'm the only one here.
Well, there were a couple people walking.
Oh, no, they're waving behind you.
Waving.
Yeah.
I'm leaving in a sec.
That's fine. There's only 3,000 people watching you.
Yep.
They said
Are there really that many people? Because if there are, I'm glad that I didn't say the thing I was going to say not too long ago. Keep that under wraps.
There's like 17 people watching us currently, but you know, it's a nice thought. Eventually there will be 3,000.
Give it time.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I'll watch it 2,200 some odd times, so you guys just need to fill that 800.
Yeah. He was close. He was close. So there you go. So who's next? Oh, we haven't talked about Dakota. Dakota, what are you working on, man?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, a couple of cool things. So obviously, next one in the Completionist Chronicles, I actually have that nearly done. And I got to tell you, full-time authorship has been really good for that, because the military in me says, "Hey, this isn't finished yet, so finish it." So I had a week between after I was done with work and before I started also doing the the dad thing and having my baby here, where I wrote for 10 hours a day for 5 days, and I wrote like 30% of the next book. So I'm right at about where I call 85%. So I'm thinking that's going to be done pretty quick.
Oh, good. Because I was worried when you said, "Oh, I wrote for 10 hours for 10 days," like, and I wrote 100 words. I was like, "Oh."
No. I was a coffee fueled maniac that week, dude. I go from 4 a.m. onward. That's my usual day. So, so the second one in the Completionist Chronicles is going to be coming out. I haven't decided on a name for it yet. Just because I'm trying to find that one defining, crystallizing thing that catches my attention.
Murder Machine.
Yeah. And then following that, before people panic too much, there will be the 4th Divine Dungeon series is going to be coming after that, followed by the 3rd in the Completionist Chronicles. But then I have 12 series total that I have outlined right now. So we'll see what we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
Dude, how's it gonna go? You're gonna kill it. That's how it's gonna go, man. You're
yeah,
doing a damn thing. Good for you, man. That's the way to get it done.
Yeah, thanks. And then there's some hopeful collaboration with a couple authors that I'm really excited about.
Cool, Fernando. Before we go on, I want to introduce Chris Carney, who is joining us, and then he disappeared. There he is, and he's back. Everybody excited, Chris Carney?
Guys.
Hey, Chris.
Sure. Cool. Well,
Everybody here?
Hey. So I don't want to kick you guys off at all. So feel free to stay on. So we're gonna move into the next segment. So this is a couple more guys here. So it looks like we have Dave Wilmarth, Jeffrey Falcon Logue, and Chris Carney.
Yeah,
So,
and I'll,
Hey, guys.
we're more than happy to introduce everybody. We have Chris Carney, who let me pull up his information so everybody can see all of his great stuff.
Well, here, let me just hop off real quick. I don't want to. I don't. These fine people. I want to be able to talk. So, thank you guys for having. I'll be around. Oh,
James,
go ahead.
James and Chatfield. Guys, thank you so much for getting on here, and thanks for your donations and donations of your time. And this is hopefully going to be awesome for St. Jude's. And it looks like we have so far raised $10. So we'll see how those bids go.
This is my daughter Lucy. I'm gonna go hug her and help tuck her into bed. Can you say hi to everybody?
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye. See you, James. Well, I'll see you guys later. Have a good one, and I'll be watching the stream. But yeah,
see you, Michael.
Sounds great,
have
man.
a good one, guys.
Thank
Michael.
you. Thanks for coming in. All right. Okay, cool. So
Perfect.
let's see. Who do we have
And
here?
we're going to go talk with a number of other folks here, including we have Dave Wilmarth, we have Jeffrey Falcon Logue, and we have Chris Carney. Chris Carney
Dave, put on your fake mustache.
Sam Carney is the author of the Borrow King and Killing Time, that series. We have Jeffrey Falcon Logan, who's the author of the Slime Dungeon Chronicles and also the Hero of Naught series. And we have Dave Wilmarth, who's the author of the Land of the Undying series, which just has one book so far, and I'm hoping to read book 2 and 3 very soon, but also the Greystone Chronicles. So everybody, welcome to the stream, and everybody.
Thanks, Ron.
Hey.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming on, and once again, thanks for your donations to this event and your willingness to participate in this. So again, it's a charity for St. Jude's Children's Hospital to help with research for diseases and for the care of those people that have diseases. So now let's get to the fun part, and I'm sure there's links all over the place right now for you to go. The auction lasts for another week after this. I think it ends next Saturday at midnight. So great, on to the fun stuff. Hi guys, how's it going?
Yeah,
What's going on?
It's going really well. It's really good to see you all. And it's super awesome for me because I get to see all these authors that I only, normally see via texting, or messaging. So it's really great to actually talk to you, face to face.
Face to face. I'm counting here. Looks like we have 2 beards to 3 non-beards. So looks like the non-beards.
No, Dave has a beard.
The non-beards are working.
He has a beard with him.
If Dave can like unattach his beard, I don't think it actually counts unless you're on like some other podcast.
Yeah, no.
Some other
It's like a week's growth for me.
Oh,
Not really. Maybe 4 days.
4 days. See, I had to shave today. I'm like, oh, because otherwise that looks so weird in the stream with like little scraggly hairs of like patchiness everywhere. I'm like, oh, yeah, can't really do a beard.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I just wanted to mention that we jumped from $10 to $85 right?
Oh, see, there we go.
Yay!
Yeah. So I think it was Dave. I'm pretty sure he got on and.
Oh, I thought you meant like you.
They're like, oh, Dave, take the money.
I thought you meant like you gave Dave like $75. Like, here, Dave, just do it, Dave. Just bid somewhere. I don't care where. So we have
I promise sexual favors, so you know.
Okay.
Hey, look, whatever for the kids. Remember, it's always for the children.
Please not for the children in that case.
Let's start off with some basic questions about from each of the new authors here. What are you working on? Anything you want to talk about and like discuss and promote? Feel free to do so. We'll start off with Chris Carney.
Hey
Am I
guys,
saying that right, man?
I'm relatively new to the genre. Okay. I spent about 5 years working on maybe 6 different novels for 6 different series, and they never seemed to work out. And then this one just fell into place really quickly. So published Barrow King, first one in the realms, end of February, and then was supposed to write a short, maybe 10,000 word reader magnet giveaway that ended up being 45,000 words because I couldn't shut up. So I ended up publishing that as 1.5. It's kind of a contemporary side story that answers a question that basically was not answered in Barrow King. About halfway through The Lost City, which is the sequel to Barrow King, it is also grown larger than it was supposed to be.
Is that the artwork that I've been seeing recently? The artwork
Yeah, the one that's kind of got the keyhole looking at, well, I won't tell anybody, but it's a dwarven city.
Ah, okay. Well, some notes in YouTube for you. First thing that came up as soon as you started talking was Barrow King was really good. So thank you, Emily.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Emily. Yeah, hopefully mid-June on Lost City. Well, we'll see. Like I said, my outlines I thought were pretty on point for the amount of time I was going to do it, but each chapter seems to be getting longer and longer. So we'll see.
Isn't that the fun of it, though?
It actually, yeah. I mean, I came from a screenwriting background, so outlines have always been part of my process. Sure. But I like the novel method better because it always seems to grow. Mm-hmm. Like it's not static. Like there were several characters in Barrow King that were not in my outline. And one, I got an email saying, I love this character, write more Simon. And I'm like, oh, I just made him up kind of off the cuff. So, okay, sure.
Isn't that nice that when someone sends you a mention and said, oh, I love your work and I love this particular character. Please write some more so I can give you my monies and continue working. It's always fun.
So, yeah, the danger is I have a side story for that character. I'm like, no, we need to focus on the main novels.
Oh, then you have like 7 side stories and like you're only in your second book of your main story.
Yeah, exactly. People are like, dude, where the hell is book 2?
It's like a 3-part trilogy prequel.
There we go.
To book 3.
Do you like that Ender's Game universe thing where he writes like 17 different versions of the same story?
Yeah.
But he did it successfully, so.
That's true.
It was good. It was really good.
Yeah, perfect.
I remember that as a kid.
Let's go on to another author. Dave, what are you working on, man?
I am about to release Greystone 4. Comes out in a little less than 2 weeks.
Woo!
So just got it back from the lovely and talented Jay Taylor and his guys doing the editing, and going to spend the weekend going through it, but it'll be out. I'm also trying to write Dark Elf 2. It's been a real busy couple weeks on the day job, so Dark Elf 2 is a little behind.
I mean the land Dark Elf 2.
Land of the Undying, yeah. So that one's underway. And hopefully I'll have that done end of next month and have it off to editing for a release about a month later. But
awesome.
It's I'm not like those other guys who were talking before about writing 3 and 4 books at a time.
Yeah, I'm always kind of jealous when they say that. I'm like, oh, good for you guys. I'm gonna go finish
Michael or
this
special.
novel. Yeah,
We'll call it that.
perfect. And the chat room, we have a comment from Don Purple, who I thought was Falcon for a minute. But they say, I heard Dave will dance for donations. Is that true, Dave?
It's absolutely not. Dave has a day job at a company that monitors social media. So if he wants to keep his job, he will not be dancing on the internet.
That sounds kind of odd, considering some of the things I've heard you say on like recorded YouTube videos. But okay.
Yes, that's well. There was drinking involved, and I'm dead sober now. So
Get that man a drink.
Dave, you're gonna be at Dragon Con this year?
I am going to be Dragon Con adjacent. I don't do cons. I don't do crowds. I am going to set up in a nearby tavern and just get people drunk as they come by and visit.
Well, make sure to tell me where that tavern is.
That's
Oh
fair.
Yeah,
everybody's invited.
Well, I'll be happy to
Drinks
join
on.
you there. It looks like Jacob Taylor in chat room says he loves
Everyone
both
drinks on me.
Greystone and the Darfell Chronicles. So it looks like you have some fans in chat room, Dave. So congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
You also have fans in the stream too. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Jay Taylor. Or Jacob Taylor.
So perfect.
I don't know.
And
Same
let's
Jay
move
Taylor.
on to Falcon. Falcon, what are you working on, man?
Well, I got 3 things really going on at the moment. I got my cover art for the better version of Hero of Not, which I'll be re-releasing this weekend.
Ooh.
And then I'm going to be writing this sequel to that, and that should be out July, August. And I also have gotten halfway through Slime Dungeon Book 5. But then I was like, I'm not feeling it anymore, so just going to let that wait a little while. Maybe get some
Not filling
fun
the slime.
thoughts.
Got it.
And then finally, working on the short story for Fiora, the character in my book. I have the cover art, and I'm, almost halfway through, but I had to go through some fun finals, which I had to write a couple of 20-page essays. So I was just burned out of writing.
Now you're also working on a secret, super awesome project, which you were showing out. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Sure.
Okay, perfect.
I decided in the same way when I was jumping in the books that, hey, I want to make a video game. So in January, I started working on a video game project based around the slimes and their evolution mechanics. And I was hoping to have a demo done by Dragon Con this year, and it looks like that's going to be way, way more time than I actually needed to give to it. But so it's coming along really well, and I hope to get a Kickstarter out at the end of the summer.
Perfect. Now, if you want to pull up do you want to pull up a screenshot of some of the stuff you're working on there? Because I think it's pretty cool personally. Because I was so excited when I heard about this. I've been following the project on YouTube. Falcon puts up like YouTube clips of like the work he's doing, and it's like this little pink purple blob side scrolling across, like jumping over things. Like there's cool music, and it's very 8-bit kind of looking, but it's also super standard. Like, he's doing the things that all of the LitRPG authors are really doing, is like making video games. He's just actually doing it and realizing, oh, this is a lot of work. And I'm like, but it's still super fun for me to like see it happen.
Yeah.
Can you focus on Falcon's screen? He's got it up now.
Yeah, it's on now.
So let's see. This is an older version, but this is where I test all the code. This is the first mini boss. I finally got him working today.
And he's throwing rocks through walls. I think there's a clipping issue.
He backs away when you get closer, but if you get too close, then he charges you and tries to attack. I don't actually have the slime working for health yet, but it works enough to give him what you expect for it.
Does your slime have different attacks that he can use? Or is he just moving around so far?
He'll have just the one attack, and then as you evolve, he'll gain new attacks, new abilities. I'm thinking some along the lines of 21 various abilities you can gain through evolution. Not at the same time, mind you. Fire slime can't become an ice slime. But, you'll be able to play the game and beat it no matter which evolution pathway you go through. I'll just close out of here for the
That
moment.
definitely looks fun. I'm gonna have to say I'm kind of jealous that you're taking the time to do that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, that's super fun looking to me at least. Like I almost wish I wanted to take more time to do it, but like, oh wait, I don't have time left.
No. We got to give everybody a fair share to sell their books for charity.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So perfect. So the thing that touches bases on everybody and what they're working on right now.
Except for you.
Me? Oh yeah. Well, I'm here all night, so I have all night to talk about my own stuff along with you. So we'll
tease it to the beginning, and then we got to wait till later to get the rest.
Yeah. I'm on here all
Save
night.
the best for last.
Yeah, there you go.
Those are some good-looking books behind you, Ramon.
Yeah. Some nice guys were happy enough to send me some stuff. They're like, here's a free copy of a thing, and they're like, if you want to show it on the podcast, that's totally cool. I'm like, yeah. No, but I have my stuff there. I have the Wilmars, and of course I have Dakota Kraut's Ritualist there, and like a stack of his other books. Like Dakota's always nice enough to send me hard copy or like paperback copies of all his things. So it's always nice to have.
Well, it's always nice to know that you want them.
I love them.
Yeah, I'm never sure. Like, I'm never sure. Otherwise, like, there's a lot of authors that I'd be like, yeah, man, here, I tried when I was first getting going to do a author book exchange, and a couple people were on board, but a lot of people were like, we don't know who you are, and we just think you're trying to steal our books. So maybe I'll try that again somewhere down the road. But I would love to have a wall of just signed copies of books. Like that's something that would just be awesome to me. Currently, I have, I've got Adventures on Terra that's not my own, and I think I have a couple of Aileron stuff upstairs. I think he sent me the first book in the Land series, but I think he sent it to me twice, so I have the same book twice. But I mean, it's super awesome of him to do that, so that was really nice. So yeah. Let's see. Oh, I think he also donated to the thing. Yeah, he did. Great. So if you're a big fan of the Land series, there's that's part of the bundle tonight.
We have a lot of different authors in there, actually. Think of
a lot of different authors.
Yeah, like tons and tons of like different people who are just like, yeah, I'll send you some stuff for charity. Good job.
Right?
And
that was super awesome. It's and that's the coolest thing. Like with this group, it's all the authors. I gotta say are really like genuinely good people. Like not everyone has the same personality type. Not everyone has the same. Not everyone gets along all the time always. But I would say that by and large, we're genuinely decent people, which is really nice.
Yeah, like in the game LitRPG section, it's Travis Bagwell, CM Carney, Michael Chatfield, Jay Cipriano, Harmon Cooper, Blaze Corbin, Matt Dinneman, J.A. Hunter, and Aaron Crash, Elron Kong, Dakota Kraut, R. Mejia, Michael Scott Earl, and Dave Woolmarth. So that's just in like that one little bundle. And we have a whole science fiction and fantasy section who has more authors, including Jason Asnauch and Nicole, Steve Ballou and Aaron Hall, Jay Cipriano, DK Holmberg, James A. Hunter, Anitha Sharp, and those are just a few different people. We also have like other box sets, like the Divine Dungeon series. We have the Dungeon, the Greystone Chronicles, the Circuit Sign box, and some other folks like Viridian Gate, Slime Dungeon, the Yancey Lazarus series, the Paulden sign book. So plenty of things for people to bid on from a lot of really like great authors.
Yeah, and extra thanks to James Hunter because he's like, hey, take one of everything basically. So that was really nice. And again, one more time, a really special thanks to Danielle who set all of this up. She did a lot of work and she gave up a lot of sleep to make this happen. So.
Yep, and she's totally listening in chat room. Yeah.
Thanks.
Based on her comment in chat just now, you can build yourself a wall of signed copies, but you ain't keeping it.
No.
She's gonna claim it.
Perfect. And looks like we have a question from chat. Mike C. I'm thinking that's might be Mike Chatfield. I don't know. But he says, crafting or fighting, what do you like the most? So question for everybody, I assume. We'll start off with Chris Carney.
So far, mine has mostly been fighting. I love crafting books, though. So book 2 of the Realms is still kind of in the fighting, getting his bearings. Book 3 is going to get a lot more into crafting and city building and all that kind of stuff. So maybe both, but I've kind of leaning towards crafting a little bit more lately. I find it fascinating. I was probably a little late coming to that particular part of the genre, so I find it to be, I don't know, it's apart from, making 8 million iron daggers in Skyrim. That was my favorite part about Skyrim and like Fallout, is the figuring out ways to build crap. So
yeah, perfect.
That's going to be coming down the pipe in my stuff. So
that's a good answer. Dakota, fighting or crafting, which one do you like more?
Well, I typically craft to fight. It's difficult, so because I love them both. Like I am all about the minutia of making sense. Like, why does, like, I want to say I have this weapon, but I don't just want to be like, hey, here's an overpowered weapon. I want to be like, here's why I have an overpowered weapon. Here's how I did it, and here's what it took to get it. I didn't walk into a lake and have random women handing out swords.
Sounds like a lawsuit waiting to happen.
But my response on there was, so the question was crafting or fighting, what do you like the most? My response on the YouTube thing was killing my foes and forging weapons from their bodies on the field of battle. So we'll
that
see.
was definitely his actual answer that he wrote. He took the time to write it out while we were talking. Yeah.
So we'll see if I can incorporate that in any books.
Perfect. Dave, what about you, man? Crafting or fighting, which do you like most?
I love to write the fight scenes. I love fight scenes. I like to try to find different ways to attack and defend and different twists on attacks. But I'm also, in real life, I build stuff. So I spend a lot of time on town building and crafting in my books as well. So I'm pretty balanced, I think, between the two. But my preference is definitely the fights, man. I love the fights. I reenact my old raids with my guild and all this crazy stuff we did, and the throwing people in the fire and doing just fun stuff to make the fights more interesting. So I like to write the fights.
You sound like a seasoned veteran all of a sudden in gaming world.
Yeah, well, man, I've been gaming since there were games, but I played a lot of years in Elder Scrolls and WoW and Star Wars and Elder Scrolls is mostly a solo game for me. I have a guild there, but we don't really play much. But I have a solid guild that jumps from game to game. As we max out one, we jump over to the other, and we've been playing together for close to 10 years, I guess.
Wow.
Well, good. That's good that you have a nice solid group together there.
Heck yeah.
Let's go on to Falcon. Falcon, what would you choose, man? Crafting or fighting? Which one do you like most?
I personally love making things with my hands. I just, I wood carve, I write books. But when it comes to writing, it's a lot easier and more entertaining to write out the fight scenes for me. Especially, in my stories, I just love the boss battles. A good boss battle will hold you through, whether it's in game or in book.
Okay, perfect. And we saw your boss, your mini boss there, so it definitely goes in line. Like, oh, you enjoy your fights for your games as well as your box. Few notes from chat. We have Joshua Rivera says, "I love your books, Dakota. I just bid on them." So that's nice. Dakota also said, thank you, Joshua. So apparently he saw the message and he responded. He's really on top of chat. He said he'd do higher bids, but he can't afford so much. Jacob Taylor says, Smith Dagger, Enchant Dagger, sell and repeat. That's my strategy for a lot of single player video games when I need to raise cash. Mike C says, them saucy sword maidens. GL Rathwick says, crafting, no fighting, no crafting, great taste, less filling. So there you go. And Josh Rivera says, Dakota, does Cal ever find out who turned him into a gem? So that one's specifically for Dakota.
Yes, at the end of Calamity, so at the end of the third book. And there will be more information coming on that in the fourth book because it was a bit of a confusing ending to the book, I'm not going to lie. Made sense perfectly to me in my head, and on paper, a few people did get confused, yeah.
Yeah, that made sense to me.
But I mean, you can always come over to my Facebook page and ask me questions. So,
perfect.
Yep.
Oh, my turn. I forgot. Ramon, crafting or fighting? Which one do you like most? Oh, why? Thanks for asking. For me, definitely crafting. I love fighting. I mean, I love writing my fight scenes, and I love like reading about good fight scenes in novels. But crafting is always gonna have like my heart. Like in whether it's Skyrim or Fallout or any other like MMO or whatever, crafting is always like the first thing that I do all the time. Like, and I could legitimately spend, hours and hours just gathering materials, trying out new formulas or spells or blueprints or whatever, and just like trying to figure out how the best way to maximize things. And I think it comes out pretty easily in my novels too, because I'll write. I'm editing Adventure Terror books right now, and one of like regular comments from like the editors that I'm working with, they're like, "Oh, your crafting things are super detailed, man," and they're like super long, and then they're like, "But your dialogue is like almost missing from some of these other scenes. Like, you should really like put more dialogue in this scene, like at least as much as you have for the crafting." So I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess that's true. It's easier for me to write about doing stuff than it is like the talking." So there you go. Next question from chat: guild or solo player? So we're gonna start off with Chris.
Absolutely solo player. I've probably one of those people who might be excommunicated for being this, but I'm not a big MMO guy. I played a bit of WoW, but the first time I got into MMOs, and it sort of turned me off, was EverQuest. No, was it EverQuest?
Oh yeah, well that's.
And I got in and I wandered around, and it was like this village square with 8 billion people, and some dude came up to me and started talking in like, I don't know, Old English or something. And I said, like, sup guy, or whatever. And he yelled at me for not being in character. And I was like, okay, this is not really working.
We want
a
role-playing server, man, because those are the rules when you go into those.
Yeah, I was complete noob at that point. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So
he was like, "What's an RP server?"
Before I did anything else, and I'd say mostly Elder Scrolls and Fallout's my wheelhouse. I do play other stuff here and there, but I keep getting suckered into that Elder Scrolls 6 trick video with the Rick Astley. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's like, new Valenwood. Oh, crap, it's Rick Astley.
Nah, you're getting Rage 2.
What was it?
You're getting Rage 2 from Bethesda.
Oh, yeah, that they just announced that. That I saw some of the videos. I'm like, Rage 1 wasn't all that awesome. I'm not that excited. So there you go. So next up is Dakota. Solo player or guild man?
I would love to play guild, but the issue is that I am sure, as with many of us, that we have about 30 seconds of time in which we want to use to sleep. So finding time to play with a guild and actually like run, raids and stuff is really hard. Like, I would love to be able to do it. I would love to have the kind of free time that would let me do it. But because I don't, it almost exclusively ends up like solo player.
Well, I've seen you do some stuff with like Charles Dean and Travis Backwell.
Mm-hmm.
What game is that? Vermintide?
Oh, that is Vermintide. But that's because those are that's when you get into an MMO though, it's like a 300-hour commitment basically if you want to be decent at the game. And if you like Vermintide, it's more like, hey, 40 minutes and then I can call that my gaming for the day basically.
Ooh, you have gaming sections for your day, huh?
Well, it's more actually, heck, man. It's half the time. It's more like, hey, this is a group of authors online that we're all like talking shop and stuff. But actually, I haven't played in a little while. I actually haven't played that since I went full-time author. But
I was like, that gaming headset does not look new. That looks like a well-worn gaming headset.
Professional gaming.
Yeah. That's the high-end one. That's not the cheapie.
Don't know what you're talking about. Danielle's listening.
Shh. Okay, perfect. Thanks for that answer. We'll go with Dave Walmart, who hopefully doesn't have a wife looking over his shoulder. So Dave,
No.
Solo player or guild man?
I am absolutely a guild guy, although I haven't played at all. I haven't even logged in since I started writing. I just haven't had the time. And the only reason my guildies still talk to me is because I send them my books to beta read, and they have to.
I thought you'd be like, because I owe them money. Oh.
Yeah. But no, I haven't gamed it. In fact, I passed up on the WoW beta. I got an invite last month and didn't even.
Oh, for the new expansion? Yeah.
Yeah, on the new expansion. And that's the first time ever since the beginning of WoW that I didn't play the beta. And I'm a little disappointed in myself, but I got stuff to do. So
yeah, you got books to write. You got a whole real job that expects you to do stuff. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. You have to adult professionally.
Yeah. Adulting sucks.
It does until you get to like full-time author level, and then it's like, oh, this is not bad anymore. It's busy, but I work for myself. So yeah.
I gotta say, man, as much as I loved my most previous job and they were awesome, I work much harder, because it's more like, I would really like to keep my house. That's a big thing for me, like having food in the house, I mean, I get up at 4 a.m. and I write until 8 a.m. and that's when my wife goes off to work, and then I'm watching baby. Anytime baby closes her eyes for more than 5 seconds, I'm at the computer just, just typing away, and yeah. So anyway.
So there you go. And real quick, one more time, Falcon, solo or guild, man?
Solo. I didn't get into the whole multiplayer type of games until I entered college. And then, of course, once I got into it, the first thing I played was LOL. So, of course, it was like, hey, look, newbie, college student, let's get into some addictive online multiplayer gameplay. So that was fun, and that's why I'm no longer a computer science major.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate all your answers. Looks like we had Steve Blue on for a second, and now he's gone, so maybe he'll come back.
He said his video isn't working.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Might have been him. Okay, well, I had his I was so on top of things for once. I was like, I had his picture queued up. I was like, oh, I'm ready for to go to introduce him, and then he disappears on me. What's up with that, man? Okay, looks like we have a couple more questions from the audience if you guys want to answer some more. Plenty of great comments. Dawn Purple says they love the ending of what? I don't know. I'm going to assume all of our books, that they love all of our stuff. That's the perfect answer. So thank you, Dawn Purple.
He was talking to Dakota.
And Dakota says, thank you, Don. So he thinks in advance that it's just him, but we're all here, and that comment was not specified.
We were talking about the end of my book, and I assumed.
It was not specified for anybody in particular, so I'm going to assume they like us all. That's my hope.
That's probably accurate, yes.
Yeah. And we have Steve.
Hey, guys.
Hey, there you go.
Hey.
Yeah, look at the beard.
Sorry about that.
Welcome to the stream, Steve. I'm going to say Baloo. Is that it?
Bowyer.
Oh man, Dakota steered me wrong. He was so wrong. He told me how to say it too. He was like, oh, it's like that bear, Baloo. And I'm like, those are a lot of extra letters, man. Are you sure? And he's like, yeah, I know. That's what I always call him. Just say it.
That French stuff, man.
I just call him Steve typically.
Yeah, As a matter of fact, I'm kind of just Jamie Castle now, which makes it a whole lot easier.
Oh, is that one of the pen names you use, or is that like the? Yeah, okay.
Well, I don't know what I'm doing yet.
I hope one day to know what I'm doing too.
That's what I use for the Bear Goddess Saga, yeah.
Gotcha.
Hey, Ramon, sorry to disappoint, but Don Purple clarified it was all for Dakota.
Oh.
Yay! I mean, I know.
I'm still gonna hope that that they meant us all in spirit, if not in technicality. There you go. We'll go on, of course, and welcome Steve to the podcast or to the show, and for donating everything to charity as we do Rhett. Hey man, how you doing?
I gotta go. If Rhett's here, I gotta go.
Is that what
every interview I do is
I'll see you guys later. I gotta knock out some fun summer work. So.
Okay. See you, Falcon. Thanks for coming on, man.
And it was super nice to meet you. You both face to face, Chris and Dave.
Yeah.
You know, and
thanks, Dakota, for putting this all together.
Oh, absolutely, man. And I really look forward to talking to you guys more.
Awesome. Yeah. We'll talk soon.
All right, great.
Guys,
thanks so much.
Thank you. And before I go, I just want to say everybody spend a lot of money on these items. It's for a good cause to help the kids. And everybody have a good night.
Sounds good.
You as well.
See you guys.
All right. Thanks, man. All right.
Cool. And like I said, and then there were 4.
Everyone left, man.
So
well, we have it set up in sections. It's not like
everybody gets a shot. And so we have 2 new guests to this particular stream here. We have Steve. He'll say his name because I'm going to keep saying my hand, Baloo, and Rhett and Bruno. They both have a long existing. I think I can only feel like a tiny screenshot of what your stuff was, but looks all very exciting in sci-fi. So if you want to tell us a little bit about yourselves as authors, as what you guys do, we'll start off with Rhett.
Yeah, so I've been a science fiction author for a long time. I was with Diversion Books and Random House Hydra, and then I also now am a fantasy author, and me and Steve co-write a series called The Buried Goddess Saga that we're doing with Audible Studios this summer. By day, I'm an architect, and I live in Connecticut.
Okay, perfect.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
And I do have I think I promoted that book right when it came out, the Web of Eyes, right? The
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, if people are looking for link, of course they can always just go straight to Amazon. But if you're on my page, feel free to scroll down a few, and you should see it.
Yeah, well, and if you guys want to wait, it's coming to audio this summer with Luke Daniels, which we're pretty excited about. So we'll probably kind of give it a nice little relaunch to go alongside with that release.
Well, good for you. Thank you very much for the information. And Steve.
Rhett hates when I say this, but I sit in the corner and write books. Rhett, this is the corner that I'm always talking about. It really is in the corner. It's right there. I typically at this point I'm really just writing whatever.
Sure.
I just love writing, and Rhett and I have been writing the Buried Goddess Saga, as he said. Most of my fiction history has been actually superhero short fiction.
Nice.
And then the superhero novel, which is Brother Dust, the one that I'm donating to this wonderful cause. So I had a lot of sci-fi short fiction, but as far as the novels go, right now it's the Buried Goddess Saga and the Brother Dust,
Cool.
the Resurgence.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much,
cool, man.
guys,
Very
for
cool.
again taking the time to join us in stream and for donating all your books. I believe Dakota has put you down for about 20 or 30 a piece, and he's selling them,
Right.
For pennies a page, but still, it's all for charity.
Exactly. Yeah, and thanks guys for coming on, because I know this isn't exactly your wheelhouse. I know you're fairly big in the science fiction fantasy sections, and this is kind of more of a focused subgenre that we are in. So it's really nice.
Subgenre
for you
or
guys.
subgenre, yeah.
Yeah. So it's really nice for you guys to not only donate and take the time to be here, donate your time. It's super nice to make contacts outside of our own kind of awesome group, but it's nice to kind of be branching out a little bit in who we talk to.
I think it's good for us. We've been kicking around the idea of doing some game lit, so there might be some things in the future there that might cross paths. So that could be fun.
All the genres cross paths either way.
One way or another.
So maybe romance. I don't know that we're flowing with.
Yeah, all right, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yep. Speaking of romance, I don't know, my characters are kind of rocks, so hard to.
You have one rock.
I don't have a cool setup of books behind me. I feel kind of.
I don't worry. I have it all at the office.
Some of us came prepared. It's okay.
Dakota, what's really funny, man? When I first started reading your book, Divine Dungeon, I was like, is this main character seriously a dungeon? Like mine was just, I couldn't wrap my head around it to save my life. But Mr. Adams did a great job narrating it. I pretty much listen to books. That's all I do. I don't have time to read anymore. He did such a great job narrating that book.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. I could vouch for that. Steve messaged me and he was like, Dakota's main character is a dungeon. Like, what?
It's kind of weird, like the outsider perspective, like, oh, that seems like a weird thing, but to me I was like, oh, this seems like the perfect story. I wish I'd read it sooner.
What's funny, I think one of us, our response was he's either the weirdest dude ever or the biggest genius ever, something like that, or maybe he's onto something. I don't remember what the phrasing was, but it is a cool idea, and it was a cool idea, and it worked.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I mean, I really like it, and it really lets me explore, just, in the first place, just having a non-humanoid main character, just has its own unique challenges, but it really lets me get away with a lot, because, if you have a perception that a human doesn't have, then hard to say that they can't do that.
Sure. Well, and you had, was it Danny? Was Danny the fairy? Yeah.
Yes, the Wisp, yep.
The Wisp, yeah. And that brought the element of humanity into it, I think, a little more than So it's good. Really good.
And of course, the main character Cal is based off of my own personality, and Danny is based off Danielle, my wife. So
Yeah.
and Vikas really when I first was listening to it, I was like, oh, he's making her sound like such a terrible person, because she's supposed to be like, oh man, Cal, it's so nice, this is great, I love you, it's great, and he's like, I tell you what, Cal, you better get moving. I'm like, oh my gosh, is that how I wrote that? Is that how people read it? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, add a little sassy twang to that.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, but it's really cool. And I'm sure you guys have the same feeling when you listen to the audiobooks. You're like, oh, is that how people are taking it? Like that?
Yeah.
That's yeah.
I listen to like one page and I can't do it.
That's not an audiobook guy.
It's too weird. I don't listen much at all, and listening to my own stuff is just extra weird.
Oh no, when I made my own audiobook, it was like I intentionally chose my narrator for her voice for my female characters, and I worked her through like nonstop for like the first like couple weeks, like, oh, this is what this character should sound like, this is what this scene should sound like, this is her tone during this scene, and so I was really super into like, making sure like the tonally like each character and each like set up for the relationships came through on audio as much as it did on the page in my mind, I guess. Yes. And most of the audience like seems to like, but that's also like from the point of view of somebody who produced their own audiobook essentially through like ACX, as opposed to using Tanto or anybody else who kind of does all the work, but also make all like those little decisions too.
Sure.
Well, we when I started writing Web of Eyes before Rhett came on. Rhett was doing kind of developmental editing for it, and I think he developmental edited it so much. Man, that's hard to say.
I dev edited myself.
Dev edited. That's so. He did. He dev edited it to a point where we're just like, you might as well just co-author this thing. But the truth is, like, since day one, I was writing this series for Luke Daniels to narrate it.
Oh, that's nice.
And so when we asked Audio Studios if we could have Luke Daniels, like, if they said no, I didn't know what I was going to do. Like, well, who's going to narrate?
What do you mean you don't have Luke Daniels' number and you can't get him?
No, I actually was talking to him before.
Yeah, he was talking to him.
Have it now, I bet, yeah.
his prices are he's so worth it, but his prices are beyond my
what you can pay upfront
abilities, yeah.
Yep.
And so without Audible Studios, there's no way we would have been able to do it.
We pushed hard for him too, and waited a while, but it'll probably be worth it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will be.
Yeah, I mean, I'll hope so.
Ray Porter and Oliver Wyman were the competitions there, and man, they both did a great job, but Luke did a far better job.
Sure. So hey guys, wow. All right. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold, so that's what I'm drinking.
Sure.
I had just finished.
He's not just excited to see you.
I had finished my evening coffee right before we got on, so now I'm on my evening water. So we were talking a little bit earlier, like what do you guys have coming down the pipeline? Like more books coming up, so a couple of new series. Anything we can look forward to?
So we have pretty much an explosion of audio stuff. Like almost everything that I have ever done, and me and Steve Sears are all coming to audio, potentially all in July. Which I have my Circuit trilogies coming to audio with Podium in July. It's narrated by Jefferson Mays, who does The Expanse, which is pretty cool. We have our Bridge Across the Stars anthology with Steve is in as well, and we developed at Sci-Fi Bridge, and that's coming out in July with Tanner. We have our fantasy series coming out. It'll probably be August, the first book when it comes out with Luke Daniels, but we're going to relaunch that series hard alongside him, and that'll come out. And I'm trying to get my Titanborn series to come out probably around the same time with Audible Studios, so we're kind of just putting all our eggs in the audio basket this summer and gonna go for it.
See what hatches. All right. Cool. And Steve, like, so do you guys mainly work together, or do you have like separate stuff, a lot of separate stuff going on?
It kind of depends on the moment. I think right now, pretty much everything is together. I'm writing something that was just like I just to throw away 10,000 words that I just had nothing else to do, and I decided to start a novel. But that was just because I was waiting on Rhett to do his co-author part in book 3 of Buried Goddess. So now I'm back on Buried Goddess. soon as that's done, we have plans to jump back into a sci-fi series that we started last. What was it? I always forget. Last summer, I guess.
We finished it yet.
And
We've
so
been book 1 for a while, and we're probably going to wind up going like an audio first kind of route with it. So we decided we should probably write the sequels.
Makes sense. Yeah.
in the background, I'm getting another superhero anthology together.
Nice.
Doing that kind of slowly. The other ones, the first 4 I did real like rapid fire, but there's just too much going on right now to try to make it happen. So I'm just gonna, as stories come in, once I have a good 10, I'll go ahead and release that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Awesome, man. That's really cool.
And I just realized we have 3 beards to 1 non-beard now.
That's right. You gotta get on it, man.
So we were even for a little while, beginning the conversation. There was a majority, and then it was even, and now I'm outnumbered by the beards. A couple notes from chat. Charles Dean says, a bunch of drunks, and I'm not there. He's disappointed, but he also says that he missed all the beer talk. So he's extra sad about missing all the beer talk earlier. There was one question from chat from Jacob Taylor says, in a party, would you be the warrior, tank, healer, rogue, or mage? So we'll start off with Dakota. What would be your answer, man?
So the tank, the healer, or the mage?
We have basic your standard 4: warrior, tank, healer, rogue, mage. So 5.
Oh, as much as I love all the others, I have to go mage. So here's the thing. I could do fighter. I could do fighter. I think I would
tough.
Do fairly well at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The beard gives you the constitution bonus.
Right, yeah. Nice. But I'm not big on the press of bodies. Like, like if I get sweat and blood on me, if it's not my own, I'm a little upset.
You have experience in knowing that?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I used to box, and I used to do combatives in the army.
And did you just forfeit when blood got on you? Is that what that is?
Oh no! I just didn't like having their blood on me.
Oh, okay. That sounds fine.
Yeah, it was not a fun thing. It was just like, man, there's so much. All right, anyway, just kidding.
Dry cleaning bills are through the roof.
Let's see. So healer, I love the healers. The healers are amazing. I love watching the healers and watching them work, but you really got to keep on top of not only everyone's health, but you had to make you have your warrior who has triple the amount of health, but it looks I can manage that. I just don't want to. I'm over here. I'm the guy that's all right. So I have this spell. If I can chain this spell with this spell, I can do triple damage. And if I do triple damage, then this guy's going to go down in 30 seconds instead of 45. And then if I do this one, and if I add this buff, I can crush this guy, and then I don't have to worry about anything else except damage per second.
Right.
And that's what I do.
Do you like the focus of what the mage can do and the options instead of worrying about who has aggro, who's doing what's the plan coming up, who's dying? I like that.
So it's either mage or assassin, and that's pretty much my 2 options. And I'll take mage over assassin anytime.
So DPS, hopefully the range DPS basically.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
That sounds fun. What about you, Rep?
I'm just gonna go based off of how I play video games, and I usually always go with sword and shield or a rogue, just because if I'm standing back, I get pretty bored. So
okay, so you like to be in the action, sword and board man.
Yeah, always, no matter what, I wind up picking someone who's up in the action, and then I get mad because everyone else hurts a lot more and has so many cool moves. But yeah, otherwise, you got to stay focused in there.
Every good group needs a tank. I mean, otherwise, aggro goes everywhere. The mage dies first, that's for sure, because he's doing so much DPS. Then the rogue and healer goes down, and so without the tank is definitely the core, the foothold of the group. So that's right. So far, we have a pretty balanced group so far. What about you, Steve?
Well, I got 2 small kids, so my video game days are over. But I'm a D&D guy, and
all right.
And I would go rogue every single time.
You're supposed to say healer. He's such a bad pastor.
Bump that, man. Bump that. So I'm a pastor, but I'm not a clergy in these games, right? So I am 100% a thief, assassin. You call it. I'm a rogue. I want to be sneaking around, and when you guys are battling, I'm trying to steal the gold, man. Nice. You guys distract them, and I'm going in.
He can be devoted to the god of darkness. It still works both ways.
It's fine.
Stab the bad guys first.
No, forget the bad. You get the bad guys. You are the big oaf with the sword, and I'm making the moves.
I like it.
So there you go. So we have a mage, we have our shield and sword
Tank,
tanker,
yeah.
we have our rogue who will pick our pockets while we're fighting.
Oh,
Probably.
Danielle is an amazing healer in any game she plays. So,
Okay, so there you go.
like,
Now,
that's not even stereotyping. Like,
Now, is that just because like that's what you convinced her to do when you were playing MMOs or something together? Like,
No,
hey,
she
honey, you know what the
pops
best
on.
role is? Healer.
No, dude, she's full on. She's full team commander plus healer. So she's like, all right, you need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do this. All right, heal you. You go. You buffed. You go faster. Go, go, go.
Oh, is she
And it's
like yelling at people like during like the stream or like the chat? She's like, get on there.
I have seen her yell at the screen, but I don't think she's ever yelled at her teammates. You know,
Okay.
it's push to talk, so she can.
My wife
then
totally yells.
then
My wife
Danny
and I
in
were
your
playing
book.
God of War 4 recently, and it's like one of the few times like I've seen her like curse at the television because like bad things are happening. She's like, "Stupid kid, stop! Just be helpful." Like, and very frustrated yells at the
That
television.
kid in the beginning is real to be around.
Yeah. So there you go. Okay, my turn. I think. I would definitely. Well, if we have a healer, we have a warrior, we have a tank. Looks like I get to be anything I want to. I'm probably gonna go with a mage as well. Maybe an artificer if I'm gonna specify.
There you go.
I like making stuff. I can make all the groups things. I can keep their gear in a nice tip-top shape. I always loved the Eberron expansion for D&D. I would love to be a Warforged artificer. That's definitely always in my dream class to see in like a video game somewhere. It's just never happened, which makes me sad. But artificer, a maker. Other than that, probably a mage. I'm definitely with Dakota on like I want you to die way over there before you get to me. And that's always been my philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So there. You go.
Another question. So Danielle actually asked, "How did you two meet, Steve and Rhett? Like, how'd you guys meet?" And
It was a really cold night, and I just needed comfort. And I saw Rhett walking down the street, and he had on
tackled him.
we met through Sci-Fi Bridge.
Cool.
I'm a graphic artist as well as a pastor, and they needed a logo.
Oh.
I wanted to be a part of Sci-Fi Bridge.
They needed prayers, and they contacted
prayer. They still need prayer. They actually do.
Yeah, we definitely need that, but we needed a logo.
I wanted to be a part of Sci-Fi Bridge, and I didn't qualify to be brutally honest. And they needed a logo, and so I gave them a logo in exchange for being a part of the thing. And it was definitely I got the better end of the deal. There's no doubt in my mind.
Nice.
Yeah, the logo's not that great.
Nah, I didn't know what I just threw together something. Come on, I just get out of here.
You two sound like Dave and Taj, or Dave and Ramon, or Dave and Charles, or Dave and.
So Dave and anybody.
I'm seeing a pattern here, actually. Yeah. Cool, guys. Let's see. Do you guys? Another question. How many? Do you guys write yourself into your books? Either are you your own main character, or do you actually write your physical name into your books?
Actually, Steve used my name as a joke in our fantasy book, but that was just like a one-off, like a character wrong name. I never really write anyone I know into my books, which is good because the ones I write alone are pretty violent, and I don't think I know anyone in that line of work usually. I try to, I guess, sprinkle things that I believe throughout, but I pretty much try to separate, honestly, from all the characters and let them just be themselves.
Sure.
I love writing first person, and the fantasy series is not first person, but every first person character I write is pretty much my sarcastic, snarky.
Sure.
I mean, it's so easy for me to write first person because I just write me, and it works out pretty well.
I wrote an old guy who was about to die.
Sure you did, and actually I think that fit you really well.
Honestly, he was like my deep thoughts of just not wanting to do it.
I don't doubt that one bit. You are the roach.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see. Cool, guys. This is super awesome. This is super fun. Quick thing. While we have been talking this evening during the chat, we have raised $370 for charity already. For Children's Research Hospital. And 70% of the items have been bid on. So that's pretty awesome, guys.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, and like I said, I do this once per segment. It's St. Jude's Children's Hospital, and it's for the research on diseases, and it also helps cover the medical costs of children going through any procedures that they need. Because St. Jude's, as far as I know, I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain they don't charge for their services. So everything you guys are doing out there, all you guys, all the authors who donated, not only their books but their time, and the people that did want to but couldn't because they didn't have physical merchandise. Thank you all so much. And to all the people that are putting in bids, thank you all as well, because obviously we wouldn't be making any money for charity without you. So great, and back to the fun part. So cool. Let's see. Now I am just wondering, so you guys do science fantasy, right? Like, wow, science fantasy. Science fiction, because in my head it's always science fiction fantasies. So you do science fiction, obviously there's fantasy elements in that, but do you guys ever see yourself moving into, more high fantasy stuff, swords and sorcery, and throwing around magic, or are you definitely machines are the way to go?
Well, really, the Web of Eyes is 100% swords and sorcery. So it's high fantasy. Yeah, you knew that. You just.
I did. I'm reading this. So no, and it was a very good book actually. I was very impressed by how in depth it was. And I meant more just so you guys see yourself as science fiction though. Do you see yourself moving into fantasy, more hardcore fantasy,
You want to take it, Rhett? That there's your answer.
No, I think Steve would definitely love to write fantasy. I'm more into writing space opera type stuff, but we've kind of taken our fantasy series in a real interesting direction, so it's been fun to write. Fantasy was actually the first thing I wrote. I self-published a series at 16, and that was pretty high fantasy, probably a similar genre. But I've gotten pretty into science fiction, and as far as what I would write on my own, it would probably be more of the gritty, dark type science fiction I have before. Even the science fiction me and Steve write together was more of a pulpy, lighthearted, fun science fantasy sort of story with aliens and alt history and stuff. So I think together we have a brand, whether it's science fiction or fantasy, of that more pulpy adventure, lighthearted story that has some darker tones, but they're kind of snuck in there compared to what I write on my own.
Sure.
I'd probably write fantasy exclusively if there's not nearly the market in the independent world in the fantasy side of things as there is in the sci-fi side of things.
But it's not as easy to break into.
It's different. Yeah, it's much different. I would totally put spaceships and aliens into the Buried Goddess saga just to mess with everybody if it were up to me. I mean, I've never mentioned that to Rhett, but I would in a heartbeat.
We can have people come from above, like book 5.
What's that?
We could have a ship land from above.
I'm telling you, man, that would be. We did a D&D mod or a D&D campaign once where a spaceship landed, and it was one of the most exciting, fun things. Our DM did some amazing things with it, and man, it was brilliant.
That could be cool.
Let's do
it. We gave our hand away, so now we can't do it.
Yeah, that's true. St. Jude.
That's pretty awesome, guys. Cool. So yeah, it's that's cool, and I know you guys are both fairly big in your circles, and yeah, I have talked with Rhett fairly extensively on this. I'd say, how different it is between our current genres. Most of the science fiction guys are hey, just put the work out there and we'll read it. Just don't expect us to, do much in the way of promoting you or sharing you. We are going to read it and enjoy it, and that's it. Is that kind of how you guys see your fan base?
I found it the opposite. I found the science fiction readers and the science fiction mailing list, and that audience seem way more engaged as far as connecting with the authors. And I mean,
totally backwards. Sorry.
That's cool. And that's just because I run Sci-Fi Bridge and Fantasy Bridge, and we kind of approach them the same way. And Sci-Fi Bridge is huge, and it grew really fast, and it's really easy to keep growing. whereas the fantasy bridge reaching those audiences seems a little bit tougher.
Mhm.
And I mean, I see it. You see it on Amazon. Like indie authors own those Amazon charts in science fiction and fantasy. You still see Game of Thrones, Pat Rothfuss, and all the big guys up top. And then the game lit authors have really taken over a lot of those spots.
Right.
And I mean, there are a bunch of big indie fantasy authors, but it seems to be a lot of the same people. I don't see that many breaking in. But then again, audio in fantasy seems like a way bigger thing and way more important to those audiences. So
Sure.
once we get into that side, it might cancel out.
That makes sense, and I can see how the people that consider themselves more science fiction would want to be able to physically look at it and like maybe even take notes and be like, all right, so here's what this says it is, and like, oh, it's 3 cubic meters. Are you insane? That would never fit in there. That's like I can see that they would like look at that, whereas the fantasy genre would be more like, oh yeah, magic.
Yeah, no, science fiction reviewers can be brutal, especially when you're not writing like hyper realistic Martian type science fiction.
Mhm.
Like there's a reason it's called space opera. You're kind of just trying to make it real. It doesn't have to follow all the laws of physics. But some reviewers don't know that there's a difference between like hard science fiction and space opera. So they can be rough, as Steve probably knows as well.
Brother Dust got shredded a little bit. I mean, we had good reviews all around, but it got shredded several times because it was really science fantasy. There was so little science fiction in it, and I even advertised it in the superhero genre. It was advertised as a space opera for those who love superheroes and vile villains. Like that was the whole thing. But man, you got your sci-fi guys out there that were just so angry at every. I mean, fantasy. There's a lot of hand wavium. You can get away with a lot of hand wavium. In sci-fi, there's not a lot of room for that if you don't use the term fantasy. So.
No, and it's true. I mean, I had like a beta reader, someone who I've worked with before and stuff. Who like there was one scene in one book where a character's piloting a ship around and shooting bombs down in space. And he was like, well, that could never happen that fast. I was like, yeah, things are really far apart in space, but I don't want to spend 10 pages of her flying around shooting bombs. Like it didn't have to last that long to get.
You know what? Craig Allenson has his series Expeditionary Force. And he's one of these guys it was the most amazing thing ever. He's got these spaceships fighting from light years away. He did exactly what you're talking about, but it wasn't military sci-fi by any stretch, and it wasn't huge battles in space. But every time there was a battle, neither of the parties could see each other, and they were just it was pretty intense, and it was cool.
Yeah, so that's how The Expanse does. If you watch the show, which is it's an awesome way to show space battle, but there wasn't a battle. She's shooting down nukes being flown by no one, so. Right. You can't really build up the drama of the distance between that way. So that's where I'll focus more on story when it really comes to it being story versus hyper-realism.
Hey, Dakota, why should I read Rituals?
Ritualist? So it is a great story, in my opinion. So it is... so what I try to do is I try to take science and replace it with magic. Right, so I try to give very good reasons why the things work the way they do. I try not to do too much hand wavium. Obviously there's going to be some, but basically it's just a different form of energy that people are able to utilize. So with Ritualist, it is all about utility. So compared to the high-powered, flamethrowers, fireballs, it's more long build-up. So this guy, so the main character's name is Joe, because it's really hard to write out like Abanov, 3,000 times. So Joe is able to he starts the game, and it pulls a lot from my own experience, like in the military, my own experience like playing games, and what I like to see. So what he does is he makes rituals, which are essentially spells that have a very high initial cost, but they are either much more powerful or they last much, much longer. So in the second book, he gets into like, well, it's not out yet, but in the second book, he gets into a lot more like big things going on, like big effects. And in the first book, it just shows how you don't need to be, overpowered to get things done, basically. So I'm still working on a good elevator pitch for that. Sorry about that.
That worked. I threw you on the
is
spot.
totally accurate,
Those are
man.
the toughest.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, please, man.
Are we still allowed to use the words the title LitRPG? Is that still legal in this?
Yeah, I mean, so
I use it on all my stuff. I sure hope so.
so it's an interesting thing. So LitRPG is they're trying to break it up, which is fine. Like I don't particularly mind how people like to label their own things. So LitRPG has kind of been pushed to be specifically RPG games, right? Where GameLit now is more of a broad, overreaching thing. Like you have your RPGs, you have your first-person shooters, you have all this other stuff, and that kind of falls under that umbrella.
Okay. So
yeah.
if you guys were to give advice to us, because like I said earlier, we're kicking around the idea. We have a couple of pitches for some gamelets, and I would love to know what your advice would be for elements that absolutely have to be in the story for the readers to appreciate the books.
So Ramon can definitely take this one because he has a whole rubric.
Cool.
Oh yeah, I have a whole thing. I do a podcast, the LitRPG podcast, reviewed and read over 600 LitRPG novels in the last couple of years. So I have a huge base of like things I enjoy and things I don't. If you're going to write in either it's game lit or LitRPG, you kind of have to understand the things that readers enjoy, and then that's going to vary to a great degree, but it's going to go around the game system, whether it's RPG or first-person shooter or real-time strategy or turn-based, whatever it is. There's a huge swath of like stuff that's available and that you can pull from as authors. And I highly encourage you to try to be original, but also like don't hesitate to actually describe the game mechanics. Like that's the thing that draws the readers in the most. That the reason they read this over fantasy or over sci-fi is because this makes them feel like they're playing their favorite video games. And not everybody has like 100 hours to spend on an MMO or RPG anymore. And so if you can capture that vibe and like that same experience of like, oh, I'm being drawn into this great story with all these RPG mechanics that I can appreciate and relate to, then that's going to keep them going. Specifically, like for LitRPG, the things that I look for that kind of qualify it at minimum is like, oh, you're not hiding the fact that this is a video game. You're not hiding the fact that this is an RPG world or that there are RPG mechanics here. If you do so, that kind of makes it feel like it's more like a fantasy story, which is fine if that's what you want to write. But if you're specifically targeting these audiences, they expect it to be pretty obvious that this is either a video game or ruled by RPG mechanics. So like you don't feel like you have to hide anything. Like if you want to write game notifications and like stat sheets and damage notifications, all those things are very prevalent among things that people like. I mean, there's always going to be a population of people who like different variations of it, and how much it is. That's up to you as the author, whatever you're comfortable with writing. But don't hide the things that we love about the genre, which is always going to be, those RPG mechanics, those game mechanics, because that's what we're coming for.
That's what it is. Like really,
so
clear progression.
So I don't know what time. I don't know if we have time. I read a lot. Okay, and so like I've recently read both of these are great books, right? So Blaise Corvin's Delvers LLC.
Yep.
Okay, and then Hugo Huescos. Yep. Dungeon Lord, right? So I think that was what it was called. So in Delvers, it was take them out of a world and put them in the world created by a god that kind of functioned as a video game, but there wasn't necessarily those stat page elements.
No. Again, his novel in particular is of a kind of a combination category, portal fiction and LitRPG, and it works for me. And that's mostly because when he does the RPG stuff, it's super thorough. Like a lot of the story still is just portal fiction, which is perfectly fine. But he's also incorporated like a very detailed structure system of like them getting powers and it being very of much of an RPG game system. And as long as it's there, as long as it's not hidden. Like the things that the characters see are described on the text page. It's not him thinking in his brain, oh, I'm wondering about these powers and what they're going to be, and someone describes them, but I'm not giving the reader details. He actually details out what all the different powers are, you know what I mean? And he's still hitting those same vibes for people like, oh yeah, this is like RPG mechanics that I can relate to, but at the same time, he's still doing like a military science portal fiction fantasy story, and so he's kind of hitting both nods. Blaze Corvin also has another series called The Secret of the Old Ones, which feels a little more mainstream lit RPG in that it's set in MMO and it has a bunch of like more detailed stuff there. But like I said, there's a huge swath of like readers who can appreciate both. But the common denominator between them all is that those RPG mechanics aren't hidden away, and you can very clearly see the progression of your characters in like text terms of like, oh, he gains a level, or he gets a rank, or he's increasing his health whenever he levels, or whatever the case is. All those same things that you appreciate in a D&D campaign or in like an MMO or in like an RPG game. Part of the draw, at least for a lot of people, is like you go from hero to zero, but it's not hidden away in like fantasy terms of like, oh, he gets a magic sword. It's, oh, he gains experience points. He gains levels, and he plans out his character, and you know, all those other things that us as gamers can all relate to, and creates this instantaneous common frame of reference for everybody. And so you're already kind of tapping into like that gamer culture whenever you're writing like a good lit RPG story.
Okay.
Wonderful. Cool.
For a novice, can you explain what the hell portal fiction is?
Oh.
So if I'm in the context correctly, there's a few different ways that people get into the games. Some of them are like you kind of like fall through a portal, or God transports you into that world, and that's more portal fiction. And then there's more lit RPG-esque, kind of more sciencey version of it, is that they're playing a game and their minds are in the game itself. So it's like virtual reality, or like deep dive, brain activity basically. So I think Portal is more they are physically, bodily transported into that world, whereas LitRPG otherwise is more they're in a game.
Yeah, there's definitely two big ways of like getting people in the game world. Either it's transported to a game world, which is like a reincarnation, or you literally step through a portal, or some god takes you from one place to another. But in those instances, like, it's a fully functioning either sci fiction or fantasy world, but the world is ruled by game mechanics or RPG mechanics. And so instead of like regular normal physics, there's just a different system in place, but it's still very much set. Like it's as functional and as binding as normal figs. You just have terms that the readers are used to seeing, like, oh, if you kill a thing, you get a damage notification, but how much you hit it for is very much ruled by actual rule sets. The same way that your D&D rolls are ruled by actual numbers and rolls, and there's a range, but you're not doing like 1,000,000 points of damage on a D20 roll necessarily. You know what I mean? So there's that feeling that is still there. The other way, of course, is like Dakota said. You log into a VR system. A lot of that is like based in like future technology that totally doesn't exist. So it's either like, you're putting on a headset, or you're sitting in a pod and like you're transported into like an MMO game or a video game. Like a good example of this would be Way of the Shaman by Vasily Mihenko. It's a really good example of like, that kind of system where you're basically you're in a pod physically, but your mind is transported to a video game world, and you get to create whatever character you want to. You go through the whole character creation process, and it feels a little more maybe video gamey, potentially. In that, like, you have a lot more game terms. NPCs act stupid like they do in regular video games. Alternatively, it could just feel like a regular fantasy world, and that's also a choice. But those are like the two main ways people kind of go into their lit RPG stories. There are other ways to do it, of course, but those are probably the big ones.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions right off the bat here, guys? Or because you guys can always reach out to me, or probably Ramon too, and chat. But anything else on this, or else should we start wrapping it up?
No,
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, so it looks like we're just about done, folks. So thanks a lot for hanging out with us here on the show for these coming up almost 2 hours at this point.
Yeah.
So everyone who's been hanging out all this time, all like 12 or 14 of you, thank you so much. We've had some people come in and out. We missed the whole conversation in chat room about bards and missing beards and one suggestion was like we should do a hunks of LitRPG calendar next year, which I'm totally for. I'll be the cover guy. Just don't get mad when sales go down.
I'll take the photos, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, that makes me less comfortable.
Well, I'm just saying right now, man, if I were murdered, my chalk outline would be a circle. So
that's fun. We can be the dad bods of LitRPG.
dad bod. There you go.
That's totally cool with me. But everyone, thanks for hanging out with us. Again, Rhett and Steve, thanks for hanging out and for donating to this thing. I know. You don't have to, but you're very kind in coming on and also donating to this for the kids of St. Jude.
Right. And one more thing, guys. So just want to let you know. So in the hour and 44 minutes that we've been talking, we have had all of our items bid on. So everyone is trying to buy something, and in this time we have reached. Let me refresh just to be double sure. We have $535 reached right now raised for St. Jude's, and this auction does go until next week, Saturday at midnight. So that's when it ends.
9 days from
Saturday,
now.
Midnight. Yep, 9 days from now. And so it's for a very good cause. You get a whole bunch of books. Of course, if you are just happy to donate, feel free to donate directly to St. Jude's. Children's Resource Hospital. It's they don't charge their patients, and they definitely need the help. And so again, thank you to all the authors that donated books and their time, and thank you to all the authors that wanted to but weren't able to for various reasons, such as not having physical copies of their books, or they're out of the country or whatever it is at the time. And also a big thank you to Ramon for co-hosting this with his amazing experience setting up these streams, and one more to Danielle Kraut, my lovely wife, who set up the website for the auction house, or for the auction center, and did all the collages, all the work getting everything together. And so thank you to everyone.
Hey, thanks for putting it together, man. It's
Absolutely.
awesome thing. Awesome cause.
Absolutely. And thanks to Dave for Dave actually gave me the he offered to buy a book from. He's like, hey man, I'll give you X amount of money for just a book if you want to just give that to charity. And I said, Dave, that's a great idea. Let's make a whole. I'm going to make a whole charity auction. So thanks to Dave Wilmarth for putting that idea in my head. So
wonderful.
And
Perfect.
Thanks again, guys, for coming on.
Thanks everybody. If you guys want to all say goodbye to everybody, we'll end the stream. Dakota, say goodbye.
Bye everyone, and thank you all so much again. And I hope you enjoyed the stream. And always feel free to come and chat with me.
And Rhett.
Bye everyone. Thanks for having me on here. Make sure you go and donate. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. And Steve.
Thanks for putting me next to Rhett. Makes me look a whole lot more handsome. And you'll have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, Saul. And thanks everybody for showing up again and for donating. We'll have a link in the show notes for the charity auction, of course, how you can register and all that good stuff. And go send your money to St. Jude's, but also get some good stuff. Like there's legitimately some nice packages here. LitRPG, science fiction, fantasy, other stuff. So go bid on things. Remember, all money goes to a good cause. So thanks a lot, everybody. And I hope you guys all have a good weekend. Remember to go read some LitRPG. Bye, everybody.
God bless. Take care.